welcome back to the Obedient Life. Today we're going to be discussing step number one of an 8-step video series that I'm doing to discuss the steps that we took to achieve financial freedom. So if you're struggling with your finances, you've come to the right place. If this is the first time you're joining us, I encourage you to go ahead and check out the first video, and I'll go ahead and put a link up here somewhere. And you can check that out so you can get basically caught up. Our goal in this series is not to scare anybody, but just to inform you of the things that you may not know. Towards the end of the video, I'm going to share some statistics with you from reputable resources, just to show you what's going on in the world today and why is it so important to pay off your debt. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But ultimately, what I want you to do, and my goal with this, is so that way you can achieve the same blessings that we have in our family of peace, joy, and just contentment in life. Because I know a lot of people are just struggling, and sometimes you may find yourself not being where you want to be in life, and thinking and feeling and knowing that it shouldn't be this way. All of the recommendations and things that I'm sharing with you in these videos is information that I've obtained, my wife and I have obtained over the years. We've been helping individuals for over 5 years now work towards becoming debt-free. So we want to go ahead and share that with you. And all the resources that we're going to tell you about and we're going to discuss, we're not an affiliate marketer or anything like that. So these are all just things that have worked for us that we're sharing with you. I highly encourage you to check out the resources below in the video description. The majority of them free, with the exception of some classes, and I'll go ahead and get into those. One of those classes being like Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. If you go through that, there's a cost assigned to that. Same thing with Crown Ministries or the Ron Blue Institute. That was the other one. However, if you go to their websites, they do have free resources in the websites. The only thing that costs anything is actually going through their classes. So I just encourage you to check out those resources. They've been a blessing to us. I know you love free, I love free. So when you're in debt, the last thing you want to do is invest money in buying stuff, and I get it. I'm going to share the library below, and I do have, and I'm going to post some pictures of some of these books. There's a few of them I don't have on hand because I've given them to people over the years, and I shared some here recently. But I did mention, you have Ron Blue, and Master Your Money. Great book. I bought it myself because it's a wonderful resource. The ABCs of Financial Freedom, also a fantastic book. Debt-Free Living by Larry Burkett. And then 12 Things That Jesus Says About Money. And we're going to get into that a little bit later too. There are a couple of other books that Managing God's Money. Absolutely love it. And I can't remember the name of the other book that I have in my mind, but I have it in the resources. I'll probably put a picture up here. With these books and all these resources, especially the books, one, you can go to your local library and some of these books are there. So you can get them for free. You don't have to pay for them. You can just rent them from your local library. Two, there are two awesome apps that I know of that are extremely popular. One is Libby and the other one is Hoopla. Now, if you have a library subscription, you can go ahead and put it into these apps, and you can download the books directly onto your smart device or onto your computer, and you can read it without having to go to the library. The other cool thing is, in these apps, you can download an audiobook. Some of them are not audiobooks, but some of them are. If you have a very busy life, and let's say you have a long commute every day, and I know some people who have like an hour or two commute. Sounds crazy for some of us, but it's real life for others. You can download the book, and if you're driving, you can just listen to it audibly. But if you're actually on the train or taking public transportation where you're not driving, well, there you go. You can either listen to it audibly or you can actually read the book too on your smart devices. Going through these 8 simple steps, this is step number 1, and basically, to change anything, you have to change your relationship with it, right? So when you're going on a diet, you have to change your relationship with food. If you're going to manage your relationship with your spouse or other people, you have to change the dynamic. It's no difference with money. You have to change your relationship with money. So this is what I call the money mind reset. So in the United States, and most of the Western nations, we have basically been programmed to be consumers through like advertisements, to use debt to get what we want instead of saving for it. And that's why it's called paid programming. Before you had credit cards and financing, your grandparents or great grandparents or great great grandparents, depending on your age, they used to have to save before they bought anything. It wasn't just, going to the store and swiping it. We've lost that disconnection to money and possessions. You don't feel what Dave Ramsey says, feel the money. You don't feel the loss that takes place when you give somebody that money and gain this item. Now, talking about paid programming and advertising, to determine the type of advertising that's most effective, it's important to consider basically the goals and target audience and budget. So that way, why do I say it that way? This is how they look at things. So when they want to sell you something, they consider, what's their goal? What do they want to accomplish? Who's their target audience? Is it an adults, or is it like retirees? Is it young kids with the commercials and stuff? Um, and basically budgeting. They know people have a hard time fitting these things into a budget, and most people, if they look at it, if I can finance it, I can afford $15-20 a month versus paying out 1,000. It just makes those bites seem easier, and it makes you want to take on that responsibility. In the past, the most popular advertising was like printed ads in the newspaper, TV, and radio. And it's still there today. However, today the digital ads are utilized more often, targeting specific audiences. So if you're on social media, like you can't go on YouTube today without getting hit with 2 or 3 different ads, right? Even on Facebook, if you're looking at some of the reels, or I don't remember what the terminology is, but they hit you with commercials. That wasn't the case. That's something new. So with that advertising, I mean, it's basically everywhere. However, even the movies, right? So let's look at different movies and TV shows that feature expensive cars or electronics, like BMW and Alfa Romeo was in the movie Mission Impossible. Or if you're a Yellowstone series fan, you see all the Dodge trucks. And let's talk about electronic devices, like Apple products. You've seen that in the 2022 movie Marry Me. And then the girl with the dragon tattoo, or even like Legally Blonde, you'll see Apple devices being used in those movies. And, they actually pay to be in those movies. So basically, we're bombarded every day with these, easy financing options. Financing, even Amazon, the easy payment. If you do this over 6 months, this is how much you'll pay. So don't worry about the big dollar price. All these are basically tricks into getting you to take on all that debt, because they want to sell the stuff. And the way they know that you can't come out of pocket with all this big money, so they make it smaller. But those smaller pieces add up. I want to talk to you. I've explained to you what those things are, and some of you may recognize that stuff from over the years, and some of you are younger, you may not recognize it. But the way I look at it, I don't know if anybody has seen the movie The Matrix. If you see the movie The Matrix, it basically goes over an individual, the main character, which is Neo, who is stuck in this computer program. He thinks he's alive, he thinks he's living. These things he can see, taste, touch. He goes to work every day in this little cubicle doing data entry and stuff. But then he is contacted by Morpheus, who is outside of the system, and says, Neo, you're asleep. You're in a dream world. They want you to think that this is the real world, but it's not. And I'll play a little skit on that too to go over it.
It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
But he's trying to explain to Neo how he's trapped and wants to free him. We're like that with this consumer-based system. We think this is the way you're supposed to live, but there's really another way. And my goal here is to show you the other way. And just to prove my point about programming, let's go over a few things, a few jingles that some of you may know. Let's see how many you can get right. Okay, so let's start out with this first jingle. Snap, crackle, pop, Rice Krispies, right? And then, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, right? Give me a break, give me a break, break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar. And then one of my favorites is I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. I want my baby back, baby back. Ribs, you know? So, and then one last one, and then we'll move on. What's in your wallet? That's probably one of the most, popular ones today, right? They do these jingles and these advertisements because over a period of time they keep saying it and saying it and saying it. It gets into our heads. And I mean, some of us, when you get to my age, you start thinking back to the older one with like the little old lady, where's the beef, in those commercials, or like Crazy Eddie's in New York. There's just all these different things that they do and they keep hitting us with that makes us think, hey, this is the way. Now, here's going to be the red pill of this whole thing. We're given sound financial principles in the Bible. It shocked me when I first I heard about it. What? The Bible talks about money? Yes, it talks about money. It talks about relationships. There's nothing new underneath the sun, Scripture says. There's all kinds of life hacks in the Bible, and there's just snippets of wisdom. So if you go into Proverbs has tons and tons of wisdom. Um, so it's like cheat codes to life. If you do these things and you take these steps, I found happiness through following Scripture. I realized that not only is it good and it leads to happiness here on earth, but eventually for me and my beliefs, uh, heaven too, which is for me super cool. So, did you know that there are more than 2,300 verses in the Bible that talk about money and possessions? Even Jesus, in his parables, 11 out of 39 parables were about money. So, when you think about it that way, do you think that God knew how important money was to us, and possessions, and how they influenced us as human beings? The Bible warns us about false idols in our lives. These idols are um, only bring heartache and pain, and most of modern society, because of greed and wanting what others have. Scripture calls it coveting. It just really, look at social media. People are always posting the great things that are happening in their lives and the things they're achieving, but they never talk about the downsides of some of the things that they do. And what's an idol? Okay, well, let's look at what an idol. And I'm not talking about the TV show here. Okay, well, maybe. um, it's anything that you're willing put above everything else becomes an idol in your life. You hold this to a high esteem. It consumes you, and it takes up the majority of your life. You'll work for it. You'll sacrifice for it. It doesn't have to be a statue made of metal, wood, or stone. For many people, it's money, it's possessions, it's power, it's status, it's it's fame, or even a career. Um, it's so important to you that you're willing to trade the most important gift that God has given us of all. It's the one thing and that gift is the one thing that we use every day. We can never replenish it, and it's the one thing that we don't know how much we have of. And that's time. Think about that for a minute. You can't buy any more of it. We don't know how much we have of it. It's the one thing that especially when you're young, you just squander it away. And we waste it frivolously, and we don't think about it until it's too late, when we've reached the end and we have very little of it left, or when our children were grown and out of the house, and we were too busy doing things and sacrificing that time for that stuff, just so that we can provide things to our children, when all they really need is you. They want you there, not the stuff you buy them. So where are you spending your greatest gift? That's where that idol is. When you're thinking about these things, I want you to think about, okay, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, I need a place to live. We need food, we need these things. Okay, cool. Let's talk about the needs versus the wants, right? What do you really need? You need a place to live, you need food to eat, you need a job so that way you can make the money to pay for those things, and you need a way to get to work, whether it's a car or public transportation. If you have public transportation, hey, you can save a ton of money by not paying for gas and registration. Is it inconvenience? Absolutely. If you're riding on public transportation, do you have to deal with other people? Yes. If you have these things, these four things, all right, a place to live, food to eat, a way to get to work, and a job, you're in a better place than I was when I came home from Afghanistan and I had lost everything. Luckily, it started falling together for me in place. I had a friend of mine who offered me a place to stay. He had a spare room. So that took care of a place to stay and utilities. I bought a beat up old Jeep because I didn't have public transportation in my area. So that took care of that. And then thankfully, I was blessed enough to get a job shortly after getting home. My friend wasn't as lucky as I was. He had been struggling for a year to get a job. And then so many others who had come home, they were struggling to get a job. So that was a blessing. Now I didn't have furniture and all that other. I didn't have a bed to sleep on. So, and since we only had one room that I could use, I bought a bunk bed off of Craigslist for the kids that I slept on when they weren't there. I took this old bunk bed, I sanded it down because it was made of wood. I restained it, and then when they were there, I just slept on my friend's couch. So that way, my kids had a place to stay. And sometimes you got to take that. I mean, that's an extreme circumstance, but there are ways of taking that a step back, and you can move back, and it's not, and you can't look at it as failing. Sometimes we need to take a step back before we can move forward. And budgeting for me at that time was a lot easier because frankly, I didn't have anything. I just helped out with the bills in the house and stuff like that. But thankfully, my wife helped me. She was my girlfriend at the time, and then I was able to get a uh, an apartment. And then I went out and bought used furniture to put in the apartment. Now, you see the pattern here? I didn't go out and finance a car. I didn't go out and buy new furniture. I went on Craigslist, or when we were younger, we drove around our furniture when we were a bunch of young guys. We got our furniture from the roadside, and some of my friends are probably watching this will remember that. Today sounds kind of icky, but when you're a teenager or a young person starting out, and somebody throws out an older used couch, you're like, hey, I need a couch. I'll take that. So, am I telling you to sell everything you have, the things you've acquired over the years, and start from scratch? No, I'm not telling you to do that. What I'm telling you to do is take a step back and just look at your life, look at all the things you have, and think about what you really need. What's a want versus what's a need? And if you have the opportunity to get rid of all your debt, especially today and what's going on in the world, if you can get out of debt, I say do it. Now, if you're able to get rid of that expensive car or truck by selling it, I say do it. Buy yourself a beater. I mean, we've all been there. Yes, you've gotten to a certain point in your life, but if you're overwhelmed in debt, extreme extreme circumstances call for extreme measures. So if you have a family member, like let's say you're living in an apartment, but then you have a car loan, you have all this credit card. If you have a family member you can go and stay with, and they're willing to help you out for a few months, and you're going to be intense in paying off your debt, and just and so that way you're not paying for this expensive rent, or this crazy mortgages that we have. I say do it and dump all the debt, because trust me, think about it. How much you make annually, what your paycheck is coming in. Imagine if you didn't have to pay for credit cards, for a vehicle payment, or pay for that expensive apartment right now, or mortgage. Imagine if you didn't have to pay for those things for 6 months. How much money would you be able to save? I mean, for some of you, you'd probably be able to buy a house, man. So just think about that, okay? Some of you have a storage garage, or just a storage unit where you're keeping furniture and stuff, and you're paying for the fees for storage for furniture you're not using. Or you have a garage filled with stuff that you can't park your car in a garage, but it's been sitting there for years and you're just using it as storage. If you sell all that stuff, you can start paying things off. Trust me, look, stuff, you can buy more stuff, right? They're always, everything, you got to think of everything as pre-landfill. You can buy more stuff. Get rid of the stuff you have so you can become debt free, so you can have the cash so later on you can buy newer stuff, better stuff, but you don't have to take on all that debt to get it. Okay? You can wander into debt, but you have to run out of debt. And especially when I share with some of the things that's going on in society today, look, let me ask you this question. Are things getting more expensive in your life or less expensive? Is inflation helping you or is it hurting you? Are you finding yourself, have you been paying attention to the housing market and what's going on? Are you having to pay more and more insurance for not only your cars, but your home, or maybe your rental insurance? I mean, it's getting a little out of hand. Let's talk about groceries for a minute. Those of you who have families, or even if you're single, going to the groceries, how much do eggs cost? How much is your grocery bill compared to before? Now, I don't know about you, but the people on TV keep saying how they're not affected by the market. Honestly, all those people that I see on TV that are saying that are wealthy people. Because I don't know about you, but if you're watching YouTube and watching me, you're probably not one of those people who are wealthy. We work for a living. We're the middle class and lower class who bust our bumps every day. Bust our bumps. Yeah, that's probably a better way of saying it. But I mean, look at what's going on in the stock market, right? It keeps going up. And they keep saying, no, the thing is a great stock market, but you're struggling. So you look at the stock market and they're saying, no, keep investing, keep investing. You know who's that stock market? Those are wealthy people. Yes, if you have retirement and you have it in a high risk, yes, you're also benefiting from that right now. But the people who benefit the most are the wealthy. I mean, let's be real. And I don't care what party you're with, or whatever the case. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. They're all making money, especially if you're a politician. Just go back and look to see how much politicians make when they first got into politics versus what's their net worth now. Just saying. Just do a bit of research. Look at what happened in the housing. I don't know. Some of you may not be old enough to remember what happened in 2008 with the housing market, or even the tech bubble burst. But look at the trends. I'm not saying that the history repeats itself, but it does rhyme. Okay, so look at what happened during then, and then pull up what's happening today. I'm just saying. Don't take my word for it. I'm just some guy on YouTube. But go out there and look for yourself and do the research. Grocery prices with housing prices and with vehicle loans. I can tell you that I've been doing some research on vehicle loans. Vehicle loans, a lot of what's called subpar loans. So if you ain't got enough money, I just sounded a little goofy there. If you don't have the money to buy a vehicle and you're putting zero down, which a lot of people do to finance, and you stretch it out over a lot of people are defaulting. That's one sign. Mortgages are starting to default as well. Housing prices in certain areas are dropping. Now, is that happening everywhere? No. But people are starting to default. So do your research yourself, and look out that and just look at those different things and see how that stuff applies to you, and then you can understand why I'm doing this video. I'm not getting any benefit out of this. I'm not earning anything. I'm doing this because God put it on my heart, and I pray that this blesses somebody and lets you know that you don't have to live the way you're living. You don't have to struggle with the bills that you're struggling with. There is a different way, and they being the wealthy and the ones who don't have to worry about going to work every day like you and I, but yet they want us to fight against ourselves, but keep pushing these programs upon us so that way we can stay in debt and be in servitude, because honestly that's all debt is. Scripture says the debtor is slave to the lender. And think about that for a minute. Think about the idol when I talk about ideology. You work and toil, and how many of you, my God, so many people work 2 jobs, 3 jobs. I've seen people just to afford the things they have that they really can't enjoy. Just think about the things. Think about the things you have to put up with at work. You will probably work at a job that you absolutely hate, but you do it because you can make overtime, because you can make all this extra money to pay for the things, to keep a lifestyle. You don't have to do that. You can live free. And that's what we're talking about here. I want you to be debt free. And is debt completely no? If you learn how to manage debt appropriately and not put tons and tons of debt on you, there's ways to manage it, and then we're going to get into that a little bit later on. But being debt free, especially in this day and age and what's going on in the economy, I pray that it doesn't happen, and I pray that I'm wrong, and I'm not a prophet, or I don't claim to be, but I've seen what's happened. I've it's affected me. So if you go back and listen to my story, you'll see that I got beat down and I lost everything. So I pray that, and I tell this and I share this story as my testimony, so that way maybe it doesn't happen to someone else and you can avoid it. But I mean, think about the perfect example. Think about what happened during the lockdowns. Okay, let's just go back 4 or 5 years, because going back 10 is crazy because some of you were kids. But let's just go back a few years to COVID and the lockdowns, and do your research for yourself, please. Think about it. Look at what happened to the grocery stores. People went nuts over toilet paper and sanitizer. They were hoarding this stuff. What makes you? And then with the shipping, remember the shipping where they couldn't get into the ports, and the shelves were empty and prices went crazy and people were fighting in the stores over stuff. It's crazy. So if you're debt free, and we're going to talk, and if you look behind me, these racks have this is like our pantry here in the rental. And I'll go into that. I'm going to do a video about having stuff, and it's not hoarding stuff. It's what our forefathers did. They had a pantry of food that would help them throughout good seasons and bad seasons, and we're gonna talk about that later on. Think about what happened then, and that should give you an idea of the potential of what may be happening in the future, and to kind of try to save yourself by getting out of debt and being able to save and putting cash money on the side. Now, if you only have a little bit of debt and you're able to save up money, man, that's fantastic, because if you think about the housing market crash, if you have a certain amount of money saved in the bank, and if the market does crash and these housing prices come down, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it looks fairly similar to what happened in 2008. But if it crashes, you can go in and what was selling, and what happened to us, what was selling for $200,000 is now selling for 90, 100, 110. And then all of a sudden, what happened? Interest rates, they came down like crazy. So I want you to do your research, and I want you to look into that, because we are a debt-based system. And I do understand that you have to have a credit score to be able to rent a car and get an apartment and everything like that. But it's not that hard to bring your credit score up, because I was completely debt-free and I had no debt, no credit cards, no nothing for years. And I said, you know what? I wonder how long it would take me to get a 700 plus FICO score. It took me 6 months to build my score up to like a 750. It's just so if you're worried about that aspect of it, don't worry about it. You can pay off your stuff. We'll talk about get yourself situated first in a place to live and all that other stuff, and then get debt free. And then we can worry about FICO scores and all that other stuff later. But first, I want you to become debt free. I want you to break out of this system that they've kind of painted us in and made us think, because it's a prison for your mind, to quote Morpheus. Um, Now, are you ready to break out of this system? Now, in the comments below, what I'd like for you to do is just tell me your why, because you have to have a reason. I mean, other than, yes, I get for most of us, it's like, dude, I'm tired of paying all this debt. I'm just miserable. Okay, cool. Let me know. And if there's anything in this video you want me to emphasize a little bit more on, or go in a little more detail, or if you've tried Financial Peace University or Crown Ministries, and if you have something to contribute, maybe you see things going on, or maybe there's something I got wrong, put comments in. If you have questions, reach out to me. I'll be happy to answer them. If you're just struggling because you don't make enough money, or because you've lost your job and stuff like that, that's a completely different set of videos. This is if you're in debt. You're working, you make good money, but you don't understand where your money is going. This is for you. I'm going to do a video showing you our livestock guardian dog, Bella. I know how everybody loves the animals and stuff. I'm going to get more and talk more about that aspect of it. We're going to be taking a trip to Tennessee. I'm going to show you guys some more video of that, and all the cool and exciting things we're going to be doing. So if there's anything else that you guys want to see or talk about, or maybe you want to learn more about the metal shop I have on the property, or the RV, I'm going to do a video on that. Maybe some of the equipment we're using to maintain the property. Or maybe you want to learn about how we found the property and what's a good way to find raw land, because maybe you want to do the same thing. Reach out to me in the comments and let me know. If you found value in this video, go ahead, do me a favor, click that thumbs up icon on the bottom. It's right there. Or hit the subscribe button. Next week, we're going to go into step number 2, which is the emergency fund and starting on a budget, which is two of the probably most difficult but yet easiest things to do. I want you to go ahead. I want you to be debt free. I love you guys. I pray that this video blesses you, and I pray that you come back and visit us. All right? Be blessed. Bye now.